fans, I think, can sense it right now.
To go, inbound to Weatherspoon with one. Weatherspoon puts up the three. It's no good!
The Liberty Flames are still dancing.
Fan the Flame to the biggest victory in school history.
Georgia to inbound, gets it to AC. Deep three, pull up. He banked it in! He banked it in!
Shot at the buzzer.
Good! It's good! It's good! It's one.
Larry Blair reverse way up and in, and he's fouled.
Man, you talk about degree of difficulty.
With two, Georgie at the buzzer. Got it! He got it!
Darius McGee, a game for the ages.
And Liberty wins 4 games in the Big South Tournament to take home the 2013 crown. Look at Bio Baxter Bell.
25 for Colin Porter.
Holmes lead. Splash.
Shiloh Robinson with an effort play.
And Liberty keeps on coming.
A huge basket by Kyle Rowe.
Got it! Pacheco with the 3. Liberty, put your dancing shoes on.
Well, hey, what's going on? Welcome into the ASOR Red Basketball Podcast. Nick Kirby joined alongside Jon Manson and Will Mathews. Sorry, it's been a couple weeks. Life has been busy, but we're getting close. Fellas, I didn't realize this. Did you know the ASUN tournament starts on Sunday?
Crazy.
First time hearing of it.
It's wild that you know, still getting used to being in the second week. Which is like such a drastic change versus, you know, those of us who follow Liberty for a long time. But yeah, conference tournaments officially start on Sunday. Liberty's still got a little bit to go. We'll talk about all of that on today's show. But Will, I saw you coming in. I saw some yawns. How are we going to get through the show tonight?
No, the only way I'm getting through this show is with some ironclad. Got the Honduras San Lazardo to keep me up tonight. It's been a long day, but hey, I'm here for the hoops. I'm here for the chaos that's going to occur here in the next few weeks.
All right, as always, Ironclad Coffee, proud supporter of all things Liberty Athletics. IroncladCoffee.com. You can get your orders. John, the store's up and running in Lynchburg.
Yeah, they're open. I've heard a lot of good things. Been some long lines over there, but that's how it always is in Lynchburg when a new place opens up. And that first 2 week of honeymoon bliss or whatever has probably passed. So be sure to stop by. They're over there in Candler Station near Thomas Road, right off campus of Liberty.
All right, fantastic. Well, fellas, the Flames are rolling. I mean, this basketball team, I know Saturday wasn't maybe the greatest performance, full transparency. I didn't actually get to watch a whole lot of the game. Doesn't sound like I really missed a whole lot, but they got the job done. What is this? 5 in a row? 5 in a row? 8 of 9, something like that. That's where we're at. I mean, after starting, what did we start? We started 2-3. I mean, to be 10-4 right now is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. I think, you know, looking back on it, and Coach McKay said this on, I think it was after the Kennesaw game, is like right after Isaiah Enon went down to injury, it's like, you know, it was a little bit of a reset for the team. And that kind of happened right at the start of conference play. We kind of forget about it, you know, a little bit after that UT Arlington win when we were in the midst of it, because, you know, the team looked so good in that game. You know, but I think it took them a couple weeks to try, you know, kind of readjust, figure out who they were, you know, reinvent themselves as a second version of the team this year after losing such a huge piece in Enon. But they've certainly, at least to this point, figured it out, it seems like. And you know, like you said, won 8 out of 9, 5 in a row. The only loss was at current first place Jack State on the road in a game that, you know, we were leading at halftime and, you know, just kind of, I don't know, ran out of steam. I don't know if that's the right word, but just the right phrase. But just the second half, we didn't play well, didn't shoot it well. But I know we'll talk about that a lot, you know, with the game coming up here Thursday night. But It's been a lot of fun all season to watch this team. Obviously those couple weeks withstanding when we were 2-3, and I thought all along, and it may still come down to that, but I thought we would be kicking ourselves for that loss against Western Kentucky to open conference play all season. But the team has done so well, especially away from home, that we'll see how this week goes. But they've overcome it. A couple more games, and we could probably say a couple more wins here this week, and we could probably say they've overcome that loss and will be in the driver's seat if they can get these next two.
Yeah, Kirby, you missed a lot of turnovers. You missed a lot of great passing and ball movement, but just maybe too much of it at times. Passing up some good shots. But, yeah, that's a good point, John. Enan, it feels like it was so long ago now that he went down. But, if he doesn't go down, what could have been. But maybe you don't get maybe you don't get the stepping up of Talon Peter like we've seen, or maybe, Xander Yates has really played well here lately. So maybe you don't see some of that, and maybe that's just kind of helped, glue the team together some.
Yeah, just circling back to that FIU game, I'm not too concerned about it. It's easy to kind of look past that game. The team was coming, gone through some illness some last week. Owen Aquino, Zach Cleveland, specifically Derek Johnson, the associate head coach, wasn't even at the game Saturday. Aquino and Cleveland combined for 2 points. So I don't think we'll have many games of those. 18 turnovers. This team leads the league in 10 turnovers a game, so I'm not worried about that. Just kind of chalk it up just a bad night, off night as far as handling the ball. And plus, that's what FIU does. So I'm not too concerned about that. This team has proven who they are and what they can be several times this season, and I think we'll see one of the best versions of this team Thursday.
Yeah, literally the only thing FIU does well is force turnovers. So they accomplish that, but like they do most nights, they don't get a win. Yeah, that game was pretty ugly. I mean, 58-45 was the final. Our friends at Shot Quality, I was like, surely like Liberty probably should have won this game by 30. No, the Shot Quality said Liberty should have scored 58 points. Like they actually completely earned that, which I guess, kind of what you're talking about, the turnovers probably. Defensively, this team is incredible. I mean, ranked 34th in the country right now defensively, which if you would have told me that Liberty would be a top 40 defense this year, I would have thought that was insane. This team was 180th last year. So that's incredible. There is a little bit of growing concern for me on the offense. I know it's easy to just kind of look at the FIU game and say, whatever. They had a whole week off. They were coming off a emotional road sweep. But 3 of the last 4 games, Liberty has been below 1 point per possession. New Mexico State, Sam Houston State, pretty good defensive teams, but that's the one thing. It's wild because I thought that the offense would be the sure thing, the defense would be the struggle. But going into the tournament, yeah, you can win 3 games in a row with just defense, but I think that's a tough recipe. You're gonna have to have at least one game where you probably outscore a team, but it's hard to think that you're gonna go in and win 3 games in a row solely on your defense. Just the same way you won't solely go win 3 games in a row with your offense. I think you do have to have a little bit better of a balance.
Yeah, I think this team has kind of proven throughout the season that they can win a game in a multitude of ways, whether it's Talon Peter scoring 30 points, Caden Matheny, making 7 3-pointers in a game, winning it with 58 points, winning it despite shooting whatever atrocious number from the free throw line, winning it despite 18 turnovers. So I was listening to the NASCAR podcast. I started listening to that a lot this season, which shout out to Naz and Scar and Nick Pierce as well. They do a great job. Be sure to check them out each week. But they were kind of Scar was talking about how this team just seems to have that championship DNA where they can, figure out how to win games regardless. But I agree with you, Nick. We have to find that consistency on offensive side. And it feels like with this team, I mean, there's so many guys that can, get a bucket, that can score. I really, Talon Peter, who's now leading the team in scoring, which is kind of hard to believe. But obviously, Cade Matheny, even Colin Porter has had his times where he can lead the team. Zach Cleveland, he's been a little inconsistent, I think, at least on offense at times. Owen Aquino is another guy. We talked about him a few weeks back about, I think he has a little bit more in the tank, and we might rely on him some in the conference tournament when it gets down to it, when possessions are so vital. So I'm looking forward to seeing, how they come about. But I have confidence in this team, whether it's defense or offense that we're talking about. I think they'll figure out a way. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say we're a lock to win the conference tournament by no stretch of the imagination, but I feel confident in this team right now. I mean, we're just playing good basketball. We're finding ways to win, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, friends over at Torvik have Liberty up to a 42% chance of winning the CUSA tournament, which is a pretty high number considering the overall, I think, parity in this conference. Obviously, the big game against Jacksonville State on Thursday night at Liberty Arena. I listened to Coach McKay's presser today, and he really kind of like he was, talking about how important this game is and, wanting to show out, but he was like, this game's not going to matter at all in a couple weeks when we get down to Huntsville. And he's right. I mean, this is a huge game. It will determine the number 1 seed. But now that we know the NIT rules, which we'll talk about that at the end, because I know it's something a lot of people kind of want to explain. I'll do the best I can, and John as well, to explain a very confusing thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a big game, but at the same time, it really means absolutely very, very little.
I think it means a lot in terms of confidence. I mean, I feel like they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. It was maybe a little bit of an outlier of a game because Cade Matheny did not. I mean, he went for like 0 for 9 or something like that. I don't think he scored from the field. And just listening to him, I don't remember if it was post game or press conference, but I mean, he kind of sounded like, "Hey, we're going to be extra prepared." So, yeah, it's not going to mean as much come tournament time, but I still think maybe confidence wise. Gives you a little boost going into a conference tournament.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and plus, I mean, let's not forget, what Jack State has done. I mean, they've won 3 straight against us. They're the only team that has multiple wins at Liberty Arena, not named Liberty, and they stopped our 45 game winning streak at home, which was the second longest home winning streak in the country behind Gonzaga at the time. What was that, 22 or 21? I can't remember which season. So they've kind of had our number. They're 3-0 against us in Conference USA. So, I'm going to say we need this win, but we really don't. But it would certainly be nice to have it. I mean, and we can sit here and downplay the regular season talk, but winning, and again, the goal, every college basketball team, especially in a one big league, you set out at the beginning of the season talking about getting to the big dance, right? Getting to the NCAA tournament. And the path to get to that in a one bid league is to win your conference tournament. But the more impressive feat, in my opinion, is really winning your regular season. And I was actually thinking about that this week. Like, you're talking about expanding the tournament. I love the NCAA tournament at 68 teams. I didn't want them to expand from 64 to 68 or from 65 to 68 or whatever it was when they did that several years ago. But if we're going to do an expansion of the tournament to, they're talking about 90, 96, whatever it is. If you're going to do that, let's try to make the regular season mean something a little bit more. If you do that, let's make it where every conference gets the conference tournament champion automatic bid, but also a regular season champion gets an automatic bid. That would, think if that's what you were playing for, how much more this game would mean Thursday. You're playing for that automatic bid in the regular season as well, that you can also get in the conference tournament. But I'm sure that will never happen because you want to get as many high majors in as you can. But that would be a lot of fun. But anyways, we can downplay it. But I think, regular season title is something that, should be applauded. I mean, especially, before McKay, we had one regular season title, maybe two. I think in 1997 we won it. And then 2004 when we also won the Big South tournament. So it just doesn't happen a lot. And to be able to do it in a conference like Conference USA, which is, the 8th or 9th best conference in the league, I think earlier this week, I'm not sure if it's still the case, 9 of the 10 teams are in the top 150 in KenPom. I'm not sure if Sam Houston is still there, and they're obviously playing better recently, but we can downplay how much the game means, but no, it means a lot. And getting a regular season title means a lot. But a couple weeks from now, when we do another podcast prior to Huntsville, it won't matter whether you're the 1 or the 2 seed. It's all about your matchups and how you're playing in those hopefully 3 games.
It would be pretty remarkable to win, considering glass half full, Liberty finished 4th last year. Glass half empty, they finished 7th last year. They were tied in a 4-way tie at 7 and 9. So I mean, to literally be sort of at the bottom of the conference and win, that would be something. I don't know. The contrarian in me almost goes, would Jacksonville State really beat Liberty 3 times in a season?
Yeah, you think about that a lot. Yeah.
I do that. I know I've said that every year, and I think I've said that the other way, like when Liberty's when Liberty's been the one who won the first game, like maybe it'd be good to lose this because it's hard to beat a team 3 times. So, but yeah, Jacksonville State, they're kind of coming in a little bit, colder. They've lost 2 of their last 4 after they had won, I think, 8 in a row prior to that. A loss at Sam Houston and then a home loss to New Mexico State. But sandwiched in between that was a road win at La Tech and then a really impressive home win over UTEP. So Jack State kind of goes with a lot of the teams in this conference. It's really hard to know what to make of them because they're just, Jack State is separated themselves, I think, at the top, but from Jack State all the way through Sam Houston, there's just not a lot of separation. Like any of those teams could be tougher on any given night, depending on how they shoot.
Yeah, I think you look at Jerron Pierre too. Like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention him. I mean, he's likely the conference player of the year. Which maybe we can talk about that. If Liberty were to get an individual for conference player of the year, who would it be? But I think Pierre probably gets it. But he only scored 9 points and was something like 3 of 14 from the field in that first game. Javon Moffmer played really good defense on him. That's the only game he's not reached double figures all season. And, but since then he's averaging like 27 points a game. I think 3 of those 6 games he's reached 30 points. So he's certainly going to be coming into Liberty Arena wanting to put up a lot of points and kind of put his team on his back. But, I'm confident in our team's ability on defense, like we talked about, and led by Moffmer. And I think you also see Zach Cleveland get the Pierre matchup on occasion too, a few possessions. So, but it'll be interesting. Matheny and Pierre both had their worst scoring performances of the season in that first matchup between these two. I don't think we'll see that again on Thursday. Yeah,
it scored 9 points against Liberty, then 36, 28, 21, 34, 30, and 23. My goodness. And we talked about the first game was trying to slow him down, and it really didn't necessarily matter. So I don't know. I think Liberty will come out ready to play. It'll be interesting. It's a great point you bring up about MVP. I think I agree that I think Pierre's kind of separated himself and should win Conference Player of the Year. But for Liberty, I would think it'd be Taylor Peter, right?
I mean, I think you have
Probably
to go with
has
Peter.
to.
Yeah, I think you have to go with Peter, and I don't know, like a lot of conferences they put a lot of weight in who wins the regular season. So let's say Liberty wins out, which is a big ask because these 4 games are going to be really tough. I think if you go 3-1 in these last 4, you should pat yourself on the back. But if Liberty were to win out and get to 14-4 or whatever, and what would that be? 26 wins, 26-5 in the regular season. I think a case could be made that the top player at Liberty should get that award. But I agree. I think it's Pierre's to lose. But yeah, I think Peter probably is the most obvious. But if you look at KenPom, I know you know this, Nick, but Zach Cleveland's the number 2 guy in the league according to KenPom, and that's crazy because we're coming off a game where he didn't even score.
Yeah, the reason he's there is he's ranks in like the top, 100 in assist rate. He ranks in the top like 500, which doesn't sound like a lot, but there's not a whole lot of players in Conference USA that rank in the top 500. I mean, he ranks in the top 500 in defensive rebound rate, block rate. He ranks really high in drawing free throws. Not necessarily in
not making
converting them. But yeah, I mean, we definitely take Cleveland for granted. There's no question about that. I love Lord Ken Palm, but I don't know if Cleveland's been the second best player on the team. If you look at other stats like offensive rating, which it feels like these awards are more offensive than overall. Taylor Peters like far and away. He's got like a 126 offensive rating, where Cleveland's like right at 100, which is average. And that's why Cleveland doesn't feel as good as he is, because he does rank as literally an average offensive player, but it's all the defense and the other stuff that kind of does that. But yeah, I mean, I think it would Peter and maybe Matheny. I mean, Matheny goes under the radar. I mean, the guy's shooting 39% from three, has made 69 3-pointers. I mean, he's had a really incredible year. But yeah, I would say Peter. What about you, Will?
Yeah, I mean, I think Peter's just eye test only. You look at the team, like Liberty's kind of hard to peg because it could be somebody different any night. But yeah, Peter's the guy that's leading us in scoring for the conference. But do you guys still feel like a couple years ago when Zach Cleveland really kind of started to break out, make his own name, he felt like, man, this is like not named Darius McGee, one of the most exciting players we've seen in quite a while. I still feel like that. I mean, I still feel like watching him play, like I'm still very excited watching him.
I think it's because he comes in at like the 1830 mark. You get like that, like he gets his own like intro into the game. I think it adds to the experience.
Yeah, he's a fun player though. I mean, just the way he can play above the rim, and he's a knockdown shooter. Like anytime I see him open on the wing with a clean look, you feel really confident that he's going to knock it down. And it feels like Caden Matheny, he has to work so hard to get a clean look, but sometimes Peter's just able. I don't know if he just gets lost or what the deal is, but sometimes he seems like he's just able to get open looks more so than Caden is. But it'll be interesting to see. Liberty definitely deserves at least one player in the all conference team, first team all conference, regardless if they're first or second in the league. And I would imagine it would probably be Talon as that guy. I think Conference USA, if I remember correctly from last year, they also give out a 6th Man of the Year award. So I would feel like he's probably got that one locked up, a month ago.
That's minus 10,000 on DraftKings right now. Talon Peters, 6th Man of the Year, Conference USA. Yeah, it's this Liberty team is just interesting because there really isn't a standout player, and it really can be anyone on any given night, which is good and bad. I do kind of wonder, you get into these tournament games, who does take these shots, right? I mean, like, have we really saw Talon Peter have to make a lot of tough plays down the stretch this year? I'm trying to think back. That's where I am a little bit, concerned is that obviously Matheny's done it. Porter's done it since he rolled out of bed as a freshman. But that's the one, again, that's the one thing that's most concerning to me right now. If I'm talking about realistic concerns is offensively, can Liberty play that one game in the tournament when they're playing someone else that's playing well offensively, and Liberty's defense, as good as it is, isn't really good offense always beats good defense. Who can kind of step up in that game? That's kind of, I don't know. That's just the biggest concern to me.
Well, notwithstanding the FIU game, I mean, Moffmer had a really good first half in that game. I mean, he's a guy, he's not afraid to shoot. I mean, he's not gonna shoot it probably as a high percentage as Caden or Colin or anything like that. But I feel like he's a guy, like there's more in there. He's not afraid to shoot the ball. He's not afraid to drive. He's not afraid to bang down low at times. So, I mean, I feel like he's a guy that maybe just a guy to watch, coming up.
I think Colin Porter might be a guy that's that guy. I mean, we've seen, I think it was back-to-back games. Was it UTEP and New Mexico State? Maybe I don't recall, but he was a guy that made the shot at the end of the first half, basically almost a buzzer beater each time. We saw him hit a clutch shot at Kennesaw State. Last time he played. Also, don't forget the three-pointer he made as a freshman in that conference championship game. I was kind of comparing his numbers to Georgie Pacheco-Ortiz during that year, 2018-2019, when we beat Lipscomb at Lipscomb and then turned around and beat Mississippi State in the first round of the tournament. And they're very similar, scoring, shooting percentages, assists, turnovers, pretty much up and down. So they're very similar players. And Georgie, it was him that hit that shot, not Caleb Holmesley, not Scotty James, but it was Georgie Pacheco-Ortiz that hit that shot from three over on the corner at Lipscomb that kind of pushed us over the top there. So don't count out Colin Porter. Like, sometimes, he's certainly not first, probably not second or third even on the scouting report for the opposing teams, but he's a guy that I feel very confident with him when he's got the ball in his hands. Also, if it's a game on the line, like is there a better person you'd rather have the ball in his hands with his assist to turnover numbers and also his ability to hit free throws? Like, he's one of our best free throw shooters on the team too. So nobody wants to put him on the line, and his ability to hit the knockdown three.
Yeah, it's a good point over earlier on Moffmer. He's the guy that might kind of sneak up on teams. Like, you look at his numbers, the scouting report is not like he's shooting below 30%, but I think we all know he's capable. So, I think teams probably in these tournament games are really going to try to take out Matheny and Peter, because they're clearly the two most explosive offensive players, and Moffmer and then probably Porter are the guys that will maybe have some of the biggest opportunities. But a lot of it's also going to come down to Aquino and Cleveland, converting around the rim, because, teams are going to try to take the three away. And I feel like those guys have been a little bit inconsistent in their ability to finish around the rim. Obviously, we want them to finish because we don't want them to put on the free throw line a ton. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Let's look at the tournament bracket. I don't really know what to make of it, because, again, like, I just which path is the easiest? I really have no idea. Right now, Liberty's the 2. They can move up to the 1. Seems pretty unlikely that Liberty would fall below the 3. I mean, things would have to really go south. But I don't know. Is there any teams that you think are a better matchup? I would say for me, I feel pretty good about
FIU.
Well, yeah, obviously FIU. I feel pretty good about New Mexico State. I think that's a team that they're going to have a hard time outscoring Liberty. Kennesaw, I feel pretty decent about. We'll get to see them again. I don't know, man. Everyone else, it's like flip a coin who's good on any given night.
Yeah, I almost prefer to be like the 4 or 5 seed looking at this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know Louisiana Tech is down compared to maybe what we thought we would, but I don't want to face Bacho with his back up against the wall.
No.
Like, I feel like that just seems like a bad idea. UTEP is also a really good team. I know they're the 6th seed, but that win that we had against UTEP felt like a good win. Like, I felt like a big win, against a middle of the pack team. So I look at this and I'm like, man, I kind of want to be the 4 or 5 seed and let either Sam Houston or Western Kentucky have a shot at Jacksonville State before we get them in the semifinal match.
Yeah, and obviously this is not going to be the way it shakes out. There's those teams that are so jumbled together. No telling what it'll end up. But I agree. I think UTEP is probably the one team I really do not want to see until, a potential championship game. Jack State too. I mean, I'd put them in that same category. I just think the UTEP game, that team, I'm not going to say it's necessarily a bad matchup. it's a really tough game for us, really tough matchup. I agree about Louisiana Tech. I'd hate to play them in a 2-7 or 1-8 game in the first round, the first night, right after they've played. I mean, Bacho, we know what he can do. I mean, and we don't really have an answer for him. I don't know if many teams do in this league, but certainly not Liberty and our height disadvantages. I'm really interested to see us play Middle Tennessee again, because if I go back to that game we played coming off that Western Kentucky game, again, it feels like so long ago, but we really controlled that game from start to finish. But at the time, it just felt like we were never threatened. But they, I've been surprised that they've hung around in the top 3, pretty much all conference season. It just didn't feel like they were that good. But I'd be interested to see how we match up against them. Maybe it's a good matchup for us, but I'd be interested to see how we match up against them here next week. So it's hard to say there's any team I want to play other than an FIU. But just everybody's so bad. Even Sam Houston, like if they were to get a first round win, over like a Western Kentucky or a La Tech or somebody, and you had to play them, like I mean they're playing great ball, and we saw them just a couple weeks ago at Liberty Arena, and us sitting here saying we don't want to play Louisiana Tech, we just dominated them by like 30 points and beat Sam Houston by 3 or 4 or whatever it was. But I do agree. I'd rather play Sam Houston on paper than Louisiana Tech if I had to choose between the two. But any of those top 9 teams, anybody can win on any given night. It doesn't really matter. Just matters if you're making your shots that night or not.
La Tech kind of feels like, remember Florida Gulf Coast? I don't remember if it was Liberty's last year in Conference USA, where their like numbers were so much better, and like they had a great non-conference, and there was a lot of excitement about that team. And we kept saying all year, I don't want to see that team in the tournament. They'll have a new lead, and then they ended up like losing in that 8-9 game or whatever. That's kind of what La Tech feels. I don't know. Maybe they're just like in my head, but I would think they're going to get past FIU. They beat FIU twice, both times very easily. They dominated that game. So yeah, playing that team right after they just had a win and confidence. I think La Tech's the only team I don't want to see in the opening game. I think I agree with you guys. I think UTEP's the one team I wouldn't want to see in like a quarterfinals, semifinals. And then, I mean, I don't think there's probably any way that Liberty and Jack State, they're going to be on the opposite side of the bracket, but I don't think the 1 and the 2 will make it to the championship this year, whether that's Liberty or not. I think that someone's going to get upset. It just feels like a league that there's teams are too jumbled up for the 1 and the 2 to actually happen.
Yeah, New Mexico State's been a very streaky team, right? I mean, they started off 4-0. And then they lost a bunch in a row and looked like they were about to fall down to the bottom. But now, I mean, they were the team that went and won at Jack State to knock off, their long, home winning streak. So not what I expected. But they're a team that could get hot and stay hot into the conference tournament too.
Well, looking at what's ahead here. Obviously, Liberty is a half game behind Jacksonville State because Jack State has played one more game and won that one additional game. Should Liberty win, the two teams would be tied. There would be no head-to-head tiebreaker because they would have split. Most likely, I think that Liberty would win the tiebreaker because it goes to, correct me if I'm wrong here, your record against the next best team, and Liberty, in theory, if they end up, they would have to beat Middle Tennessee probably again and Kennesaw, who are the two teams up at the top. They've already beat New Mexico State twice. So they're going to hold, I think, a lot of those tiebreakers. But yeah, I mean, Jacksonville State does not have to do a whole lot. And they got FIU, which you would think should be a win. It's on the road. And then Kennesaw at home. So there's a good chance that if Jack State beats Liberty, they're going to run the table. There's a good chance if Liberty beats them, they're going to win their final two. It's still a really hard road for Liberty to just end the season tied.
Mm-hmm. Middle Tennessee, I feel like, is kind of a team that I always kind of forget about, and I don't know why that is. But yeah, I mean, obviously, JSU, controls their own destiny right now. I mean, would you rather have FIU and Kennesaw State at the end of your schedule or Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky?
Well, and those are on the road too.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and if Jack State were to win Thursday, not only do they own the head-to-head tiebreaker and they're a full game in the loss column up on Liberty, then you get FIU on Saturday. Like, I mean, they could go into the final week against Kennesaw pretty much with the 1 seed locked up. Whereas even if Liberty does win Thursday, you got a tough turnaround against a good Kennesaw team that's going to want to come in here and get a little bit of payback. And I'm not sure how a Sunday early afternoon crowd at Liberty Arena will be. I wouldn't expect it to be, the best crowd we've had all season. So that will be a tough. And then obviously, I mean, we already lost to Western Kentucky at home, and then, Middle Tennessee, they're probably going to be the 3 seed. So, and I mean, there's also a scenario where if Liberty were to drop one of these next 2, I mean, you're going to that Middle Tennessee game and they've got a chance to crack into that top 2 if they knock you off. So, like I said earlier, if you go 3-1 in this last 4, you feel really good. I mean, these are, 4 of your toughest games that you're going to have in conference play. I felt that about UTEP and New Mexico State too, the road trip there, and we were able to steal both of those 2. So I don't put anything past this team. I certainly don't expect us to go 0-4. I wouldn't expect us to go 1-3, but I think anything from 2-2 to 4-0 in this stretch is on the table. And it would be interesting, like if we were to go, is there a way we could go 2-2 and still get the 1 seed? I'm not sure. Obviously, that win would have to be one of those 2 would have to be over Jack State, but it's a tough stretch to close it out.
If Liberty loses 1 game, Jack State has to lose twice, right? That's why I'm saying, like,
I think so. Yeah.
Liberty almost has to win out just to be tied. And if Liberty wins out, I think it's almost impossible for them not to win the tiebreaker, because they will have gone 2-0 against Middle Tennessee, New Mexico State, and Kennesaw, who are the teams there, unless somehow UTEP snuck into the third, because Jack State did sweep UTEP and Liberty obviously didn't, but UTEP's only 7-7 right now, where they're a full 2 games behind Middle Tennessee. So I don't know, it'd be interesting if Liberty loses, how Liberty kind of plays the final 3 games. Because the most important thing, we can talk all about how we want to be playing well. The most important thing is that everyone is healthy and relatively fresh. I mean, that means way more than any of these wins and losses.
Yeah, it might be getting a little bit more Caillou action in some of those games.
You see some load management.
Did y'all notice that at the end of the game against FIU? The crowd has got a love affair. The home crowd, the students have a love affair with Caillou. They start chanting, "We want Caillou," with like 7 minutes left in the game, and it's like an 8 or 9 point game. I'm like, you guys are way too early. And then McKay finally calls them out to calls them off the bench, and the crowd erupts with like 30 seconds left. But then Liberty gets the ball, and they're just going to dribble the clock out. So he sends them back to the bench, and the crowd's booing. And then, like, Liberty ends up not even shooting it and takes a shot clock violation with like 1.6 seconds left. And then McKay real quick gets, Kai, get back in there. And so he gets out onto the court for 1.6 seconds, and the crowd was very happy. It was kind of funny.
That's a lot of fun. I remember back, I think my freshman year, there was a guy off the bench, Jeff Reber, that
I remember him.
Like that. Yeah, the crowd loved when Jeff Reber came in. And that was a lot of fun. Let me ask you, John, about the crowd, because you are at the games, and Kirby and I are a little bit long distance. But it's almost hard to tell on TV. Like, you can hear how loud it is, but it's like you don't get to actually see the student sections unless you're looking at the Jokers or the band on the opposite ends. What is the student section like in some of these, big crowd games like at FIU?
I hope I don't get any flack for this. I've kind of been disappointed.
I'm sorry.
No, it's a good question. I love to have the conversation, but I kind of been disappointed in our crowd and our student body a lot of the season. Like, we can talk about the season ticket holders not always showing up and that sort of thing. And you have a capacity crowd or a sellout crowd, and you see 500 empty seats. But Feels like the students haven't been engaged in a lot of games. Like they're, what was the game a couple weeks back? Maybe Louisiana Tech. No, it wasn't that one because we were up by a lot. I don't remember which game it was. UTEP, New Mexico State. I don't remember. But the crowd just was not engaged, and it just seemed like they were kind of dead and flat and not, just kind of sitting on their hands and knees. Maybe it was a Sam Houston game. They're just kind of sitting on their hands, and it's like, what are we doing? Like, let's get into the game. So I'm interested to see how they'll be Thursday night when, it's a big game. It's first place in the conference on the line, all that sort of stuff. I'm hoping that the students bring the energy. We've seen them do it before. They just, for whatever reason, I've kind of been disappointed. They've shown up, most of the games they've shown up, especially here in the spring semester, but just seems like it's a lot of sitting down, waiting for something to happen before they kind of get into it. Does it come across that way on TV?
It does. I mean, when they shoot to what seems like students, if it's not families, it's just a lot of sitting down, like chatting back and forth and not really engaged. And sometimes I think, like, is that at a disadvantage to where the student section is compared to where the cameras are? Because if you remember in the Vine Center, like, you could see the student section and the students were excited to possibly get on TV. And now it's like, you don't really see them. Like, it's hard to know where the students actually are when you're watching from home. Yeah,
the student sections, and they're split up too. Like half the student sections, they're behind both baskets. So that's where the student sections are, behind each basket. And, I don't know. There's been a lot of conversation we've had before about like Liberty Arena, the size of it and stuff. One thing that I think has been detrimental with the size, with it being 4,000, as I think we've lost some of that student momentum we had in the program, because there was games that you would get 4,000 students to the game at the Vine Center. It wouldn't happen every night, and those times that you're on Christmas break and you got 200 people in an 8,000 seat arena look terrible, but you don't have the lines of mass of, students waiting outside very much anymore. And they just kind of bring that energy inside the building. And, hopefully they'll prove me wrong on Thursday and they'll have that energy, but I don't know if that's maybe dampened some of the student atmosphere and enthusiasm. And again, we've also, like, when all of us were in school, it felt like we were more of a basketball school, whereas now we've completely flipped and we are a football school. And the students are terrific at the football games. And, maybe it's just we're just not a basketball school anymore, and they just don't. I don't know. It's been a little disappointing, but I'm a hopeful Thursday night they'll have a great performance. We're going to need them, so I'm hoping they'll show up and not just be there, but be loud.
Yeah, definitely excited for the game on Thursday night. Wild. When's the last time Liberty played a regular season home game on a Sunday, John?
Oh, I don't know. It's been a long time. I mean, unless it's been like one of these like non-Division I games that you kind of forget about in December. But it's been a long time. I'd have to go back and look. That's a good point. And it's 1 o'clock. Is it TV? I think it's on like CBS Sports Network. So I assume it's TV.
CBS Sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking.
1 o'clock on Sunday.
I was looking because my wheels were turning like, hey, a Sunday afternoon game. Like, hey, I can quit preaching a little early and drive up at 1 o'clock. It's a little unattainable for me. So
can you just put it behind you while you're rolling? I mean,
yeah,
little screen.
Now, Will, are you one of those guys that you're done at 12, or are you like keep it going till 12:30?
He's at 5 more minutes and I quit and I promise kind of guy.
And it was 25 minutes later. We're still
Kirby
here.
nailed it. Yeah, Kirby nailed it. It's between 12 and 12:15 most days.
All right, let's talk NIT, because I know this has been a really fascinating development here. Is the NIT. So there's the Crown tournament, which has, I guess, probably really helped Liberty, I would think. Now it's kind of maybe watered down the NIT in the process. So the Crown is rewarding the Big East and the Big 12. I think they're giving them some sort of like, they were committing so much, and this is all about money. It's a big money thing at this point. But long story short, the NIT now will basically guarantee Liberty a spot. That's the nuts and bolts of this if they were to lose in the conference tournament, because there's 2 paths to get in, and Liberty is clearly in one of them. So the first path is each of the top 12 conferences as determined by the KenPom rating. So just great to see KenPom actually recognized as a what gets you in. So all these years of hammering it, now you see it on a piece of paper. But the top 12 conferences will receive 1 exempt bid. That bid will be granted to the team in each conference with the best KNIT score, which is clearly going to be Liberty. So Conference USA is the 9th best conference. I think it's impossible to drop at this point. Certainly impossible to drop multiple spots because there aren't conference games. You're playing against each other. So Liberty's set there, and Liberty is clearly going to be the best score there. I'll put the scores up in a second. But then there's also automatic bids granted to the conference regular season champions that have a KNIT score of 125 or better. So that would be for conferences that they don't have to be in the top 12. It's just, are they good? So I think a team like Lipscomb is probably the best example of a team that would fall into that second category. So
maybe even a McNeese. I can't imagine.
Yeah, McNeese is
Southland's
certainly
there too. Yeah.
Yeah. They're exactly. Those are the kind of teams, which is great. I mean, those are the teams that should be rewarded. Those are the teams that should be rewarded in the NIT. I love to see them use this model, and maybe it's the top 5 teams are put in the real tournament from these leagues. But here's the average. Liberty's 67.9. So I think probably pretty safe to say, even if Liberty loses their next 4 games by 20 points, they're still going to be in the top 125. They're not going to drop that far. So Liberty's safely in. If you're curious about the rest of the conference, Middle Tennessee and Jacksonville State right now are in a good position. So there could be, multiple teams that get in. La Tech is real close at 132. UTEP at 137. UTEP, going up 12 spots this late in the season with that much data is going to be tough. La Tech, maybe, 7 spots, but interesting. I do love this, however they got to this. I know people outside of Conference USA hate this, but this is it's really great for a team like Liberty.
Yeah, I guess the it's very complicated, like you said, and you did a good job explaining it. But for Liberty fans, Liberty is 99.999% guaranteed making the NIT if we don't win Conference USA automatic bid conference tournament, because we are the highest ranked team in this KNIT metric that you've got on the screen here now. And we're in a top 12 league, currently either 8 or 9. I can't remember which Conference USA is. But so we're guaranteed that. We're also, if we win the regular season, we would, qualify 2 qualifications, not just the highest ranked team in one of the top 12 leagues, but also the regular season champion of a league, and you're in the top 125. So, if Jack State or Middle Tennessee, which those are probably the only 2, I guess, that really have a realistic shot outside of Liberty to win the regular season title at this point, most like really Jacksonville State. But if Jack State wins the regular season title and Jack State and Liberty both fail to win the Conference USA tournament, you could have 2 teams in Conference USA in the NIT. I guess you would have 2 teams. And more than that, those teams that get those exempt bids, they also get they're guaranteed at least 1 home game in the NIT. So not only would Liberty make the NIT if they don't win the Conference USA tournament, they are guaranteed at least 1 home game. So again, I put this on Twitter, a week or so ago, but that's obviously not the goal. But it's a decent consolation prize if you were to fall in Huntsville, whether it's for Liberty or Jacksonville State, or even if Middle Tennessee is able to qualify as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think NIT may completely change the rules next year. This is certainly something they just put out. But if this sticks, I mean, Liberty most years is going to finish in the top 125 in that. Now, the Liberty's most of the time is going to. It's ironic that they're actually have a better overall rating in this than they have in KenPom, because I went back and I looked through some of the previous years. Normally, they were a little bit behind KenPom. For example, in 2022, Liberty finished 125th in KenPom, but those first three, the strength of record type things, Liberty was like in the 150s. So this year just happened to work out that way, probably because of wins against Lake McNeese and in Kansas State. But nonetheless, most years, I think 5 out of the last 7, Liberty would be in the top 125, and I think going forward, most years that's not going to be a problem. So I hope they stick to this format. It'd be great for Liberty to pretty much always be guaranteed some sort of high postseason.
Mm-hmm. My thoughts exactly. Well, you sent that to us earlier today as a conversation point. I took one look at that and I said, I'm just going to wait for Kirby to explain all of this on the show tonight, because it looks like a lot of statistics and math that I was not in the right mindset to look at. But yeah, I agree with you. I like it because Liberty's going to kind of be in that range. It seems like, with the scheduling philosophy and the talent and that McKay brings in, that we're going to be kind of right there. And so it's, it's good for nothing else that all of these new guys that are into the system now or onto the team, like they're going to get to play some postseason basketball. How is that going to transition to next year?
Maybe this isn't the best time to discuss it. What are your guys' thoughts of expanding the NCAA tournament? I was kind of out on it, but I've been thinking about it the past few days. Coach McKay is a big proponent of it. He's been asked about it before. He's all about it. And, again, I'm scared that if they do go to 90 or whatever, it's going to be something where, the top 4, 5, 6 conferences are going to be guaranteed so many spots, which I just hate. But if you could do some type of hybrid model with this NIT system where, every mid-major, there's no reason a Liberty, a McNeese, a VCU, there's lots of teams, that I could mention, even a Lipscomb, they might not be quite as good nationally, but there's no reason Liberty, Drake, McNeese, VCU, those teams should be in the NCAA tournament, even if they were to falter in their conference tournaments. They're, VCU might get an at-large bid, but seeing like an Arkansas who's 5-9 or whatever in their conference, no disrespect to the SEC, is obviously a really good conference this year. But if you go 5-9 in your conference, or maybe they'll end up 6-10 or something, 6-12, whatever, you don't deserve to be in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. Maybe if we go to 90 teams or whatever, it gives teams like Liberty, like McNeese, that extra opportunity to get into the big dance. What are you guys' thoughts on expanding the tournament?
Kirby, your insights are probably better than mine, so I'll take this one first.
It was a college basketball. Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, I think you need to go first. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm like you, John. Pros and cons, right? Like, I think if they did something like what the NIT is doing, some kind of, measurement like that to get some of these mid-major teams in, I'm for it. Or if they, the regular season winner gets an automatic bid as well. But man, I don't want to see Ohio State in it when they're like 15-13 and don't even have a 500 conference. Oh, sorry, Kirby. I know you're a big Ohio State fan. I'm just joking. I know, I'm just joking. They're not even 500 in their conference, but because it's a big name brand, I feel like they're going to be in it. So for that reason, I don't like it. So I guess I would just want to know more about how they're going to choose the teams in this expanded field.
Yeah, as like a college basketball fan, I've always been anti-expansion just because you found the perfect formula. It's one of those things, don't mess with it. What I could maybe get behind is if you have those extra, 30 teams extra or whatever, and you somehow do the top, I don't know out of the numbers, but the top 6 seeds get into the normal tournament as it would stand now. And then you had all those other teams play one game. So essentially it's like a play-in game, but it's just an extra round. And I think they should call it not the first round. They should call it the entry round or something. So you keep the tradition alive. What would be cool is if those teams, you broke it up to where one team is a high major team and the other is a mid-major team. And every year you got to see it, because it'd be more fun, because like you would, specifically designate it to be that. And I think those matchups would be more compelling. I think fans would enjoy it, because like the worst thing is when you get into the tournament and you have like Drake and another mid-major, they always pair them together in like the 5-12 match. I was like, we don't want that. So if you set it to where you had like the high major versus the low major, I think that could actually be a way to make the tournament better and reward everyone, because they're like, I'm with you. The mid majors should always get the benefit of the doubt over these middling high major teams. But at the same time, like if I'm trying to be objective, is Liberty really going to go 8-8 this year in the Big 12? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be tough for that to happen. So like you have to have both, and that's the only kind of fair way I think to do it.
Yeah, and I know everyone listening to this is Liberty fans or Conference USA fans or mid-major fans, but the thing, I agree with you, Nick. A Liberty, a McNeese, whoever might not be able to go 8-8 in the SEC or the Big 12, but we don't know. Like Liberty's got 0 quad 1 games on their resume this year. So we really don't know. Those teams in the Big 12 or the SEC that are on their bubble, they're like 5-11 in quad 1 games. So we've seen what they can do, and they shouldn't be. I mean, we saw what NC State did last year, and obviously they won the conference tournament, so they earned their right into the field. But they just got lightning in a bottle for a couple of weeks and made the run all the way to Final Four. Awesome. I love that they were able to do that. It's an awesome story, and that's the beauty of March Madness. But at the same time, it's like, some of those teams, like if they were to lose in the conference championship game in this new expanded field, would they automatically get in just because they, had that nice run late in the season? They're 500 overall. I would hope not. I think there's a way to do it. I'm like you, Nick. I've been anti-expanding the tournament just because I love college basketball. I love March Madness. It's my favorite sporting event of the year, and I don't want to change it. But at the same time, I feel like there's ways that you can change it, and it would benefit Liberty and still make the tournament intriguing. And it can make the regular season more important. Like I said earlier, I think one of the best ideas that could be included is to say, hey, a regular season champion is guaranteed a spot in the NCAA tournament. I mean, you're probably talking about maybe 10 more bids a year at the most, because most of the times those teams are either getting an at-large or they're going to win their conference tournament. So again, that puts a lot more emphasis on the regular season, gives you more to play for. And, it also makes, Conference USA have a chance to get more than one team in. And I don't know. Probably not the right time to talk about it right here as we got this big game Thursday night, but it's just something I've been thinking about here the past few days about, Liberty's chances and, how to make the regular season mean more, how to make a regular season title mean more, because it's really lost its luster recently.
Yeah, I heard I think it was Joe Lenardi. It could have been somebody else. I can't remember now, kind of talking about the expansion possibilities and saying that he was for it because if you get some more of these mid-major teams in, like say a St. Peter's who, went to the Elite Eight a couple of years ago, you eliminate some of those teams earlier in the tournament so that by the time a St. Peter's gets to an Elite Eight, it's a more of intriguing matchup as opposed to them losing to Duke by 30 points in the Elite Eight, and you're not getting the eyeballs. But so, yeah, like I disagree with that because I'm a mid-major fan, right? Like I want this, I'm pulling for the St. Peter's every time, to get to the Final Four. So I don't know. It's an interesting discussion. Interested to see kind of how they're going to maybe make it fair if they are going to make it fair.
Good stuff. Well, really looking forward to Thursday. Looking forward to the rest of the season already. Like, pitting my stomach about those conference tournament games. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea how mid-major coaches coach those games because I'm
so
watching.
tough.
I'm like sick. Like,
It's so tough because, like, Liberty, you can think back to that 2023 team. You can think to this year. Like, if Liberty were to win these next 4 games and get to, regular season champions of Conference USA 26-5 or whatever our record would be, 14-4, what a tremendous season that would have been. But it really doesn't matter if you're not cutting down the nets in Huntsville the following week. And it just takes so much away from that team. But I mean, it's why we love March Madness, is why we hate March Madness. And we're all going to be on pins and needles here in 2 weeks for every game. And in my mind, I've gotten to like, okay, what's our best draw? But it doesn't matter when that Wednesday night game, hopefully Wednesday night if we're a 1 or 2 seed, Wednesday night game rolls around when we're playing whoever we're playing, I'm going to be as nervous as I can be because we know that any team can beat any other team in this league on any given night. So I'm dreading it, but I'm also looking forward to it greatly. And I don't know how I'm going to get through it. And again, I'm just a fan watching. I'm not a player. I'm not a coach where, my livelihood's dependent upon it. It's crazy, but it's why we love March Madness, why we love college basketball.
And I will add this point. I think this is Richie McKay's one of his finest seasons as a coach. Yeah. I think after basically dominating the ASUN for however many years, going to a much better conference and being maybe, I don't want to say unprepared, but maybe just unexpecting or not knowing what to expect and kind of treading water last year a little bit. He made the changes. He utilized the transfer portal with not necessarily D1 guys, but he found the right guys to come in. I mean, I still think, we've heard, for years and years, like the more you play the pack line, the better it gets. And to have so many new pieces in the pack line, like to be so good defensively, I feel like this is just one of his better years. So kudos to Richard McKay.
Yeah, definitely tip of the hat to Coach McKay. And he made the adjustments, right? I mean, he made the adjustments. There's so many coaches you look around now that, with NIL and transfer portal, legends of the game, Jay Wright, Jimmy Larinaga, Jimmy Boeheim. There's so many different guys that, Tony Bennett, that are hanging them up and just walking away. But McKay, made the changes and it's been for the better. And this team has really, had a great season already. And I'm looking forward to the stretch run. It's also, there was something else I was going to say, and shoot, I just lost that track of. It'll come back to me once we sign off. But
well, you even think about the one kind of knock against McKay is like he doesn't recruit size, and I mean he did go out. I mean he got Enan, who was a great player, and you can't help the fact that he went down. But even with that loss, like just the way like the team is adjusted, but that's a reflection on the way he is adjusted. So
sure, I remember what I was going to say is, we won those 3 straight in the ASUN, and we kind of dominated the conference in the regular season and in the postseason, those 3 seasons. And, I don't know if you guys are like me, but it kind of felt like I took it for granted. Like I was like, this is our new lot. Like we're going to be winning conference championships every year. And then we got upset by Bellarmine that next year, and then got beat by Kennesaw. And then last year, you kind of talked about it a little bit, Will, how, we were just kind of struggling to even go 500 in conference play and had that first round exit. But if we were to be cutting down nets in Huntsville, which is a big if, right? I mean, it's a big if. It's going to be a tough road. But just think of how much more we would enjoy it, how much sweeter it would be after having these past 3 years, after having last year and the disappointment and Coach McKay having to figure things out and go back to the drawing board and make tough decisions. I'm sure there was tough conversations, tough decisions he had with some guys that he recruited to come play here that he, decided to move on from, or they decided to move on, or whatever the case was. So again, that, might be putting the cart before the horse, but it's been a lot of fun this season, and I'm just hoping for that storybook ending.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as nervous as I'll be, I do feel confident in saying that any game that Liberty plays in the Conference USA tournament, if they play well, they'll win. I fully believe that. I think Liberty's the better team, but the better team doesn't win on any given night. So Liberty definitely has that going for them. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we can find a way to talk next week to recap this weekend, and then certainly we'll come on and preview the Conference USA tournament when we get that beautiful bracket before our eyes and try to break down the matchups the best we can. So, John, Will, appreciate you. Shout out to Jason Porter Real Estate, Ironclad Coffee for all their support of the Sea of Red and the Sea of Red podcast. We'll talk again soon. Hopefully get to the game. If you're in the Lynchburg area on Thursday night, go Flames.